Good morning, everybody. My name is Greg Buffkin. I'd like to talk to you this morning about expectations. This is kind of the next in my series of In the Mind of an Addict, but this one also applies to the family of an addict as well. It's very important that both as an addict and as a family or loved one of an addict, that clear expectations are communicated at all times, and to deal with understanding the expectations of the other side, not just communicating your expectations, but understanding what the other side expects as well. I'll give you a little example. I deliver lumber for a lumber company, drive a forklift on job sites delivering lumber, and I understand that the people who work on these sites have specific places they want specific materials set so they can get to them a little more easily. They don't have to carry them as far, whatever the case may be. But that doesn't always mean that I'm able to get to the places that they want me to get to. Sometimes it's muddy, sometimes there's blockage, sometimes there's things in the way. Sometimes when I pull up on job sites, if there's things in the way, then I just kind of set the stuff down wherever I can get to. And I have always kind of assumed that the people who are working on the job site understand that. Yesterday I was at a job site, pulled up, and there was the house is up on a hill, a pretty good sized hill, so there's only one access up, and that's through the driveway. And when I got there, there was a roll-off dumpster and a vehicle parked in the way, so I couldn't get up to the house. So I was stacking all the stuff down as close to the top as I could get it, but it was still a good ways from the house. And when I sat down the last bunk of lumber, one of the guys came up and asked me if I could move all the stuff closer, and I said, well, I would have done that, but you have a vehicle and a dumpster in the way, I can't get there. And he said he would move it, and I said, well, it would have been nice if you would have moved this stuff before I set it all down, so now I have to pick it all back up and move it again. And he apologized, and I picked it up and moved it. But in my mind, when I got done and got back in my truck, I started thinking, when I first got there, if I had not been in such a hurry and walked up to the guy who was in charge and just said, hey, look, I want to put this stuff in the place that's most convenient for you and saves you some effort, so it's not such a difficult task. We might have come to some resolution of the agreement before I ever got started, rather than having him stop what he was doing and come down and move his truck and me pick everything up and move it again. Expectations were there. He expected I would put stuff close to the house. I expected that they would make it easy for me to put stuff close to the house, and that's not what happened. And so we both were inconvenienced more than we should have been. And it's kind of the same thing in the mind of both an addict and those who love an addict. There are a lot of addicts who, once they come out of recovery especially, expect life to go back the way it used to be, and that's not always possible. There are boundary issues, and there are emotional issues and trust issues, and a lot of different things that the family hasn't had a time to work through yet. There hasn't been healing, and so those boundaries, those divisions can't just be overcome. They have to be healed over time. A new track record has to be laid. It has to be demonstrated that the addict is trustworthy and is not going to break that trust again. And a lot of times when the addict gets out, they have those expectations and they're not met, at least not initially, and they get frustrated, and then the family gets frustrated, and it starts the whole cycle all over again. So we have to understand, both as addicts and as those who are in relationship with addicts, to define expectations. For the addict, when you come out, if your desire and expectation is that life would return to normal, then that needs to be communicated. But you also have to have a willingness to understand that the family may not be at a point where that's possible yet. And rather than being upset that those expectations aren't going to be met, you have to understand that you spend a considerable amount of time bringing the relationship to the point where that wasn't possible. You spent a lot of time, just as I did, stealing from people and lying and manipulating and making the relationship you want not possible, because there wasn't trust, and there wasn't an option for a healthy relationship. As a family member, as somebody who loves an addict, it is important to understand the expectations of the addict. So if they don't come out and voluntarily explain what they expect very early on in the process, even before they come home from recovery, it's possible to say, hey, look, let's just have an open and honest conversation. Kind of what are your expectations of the relationship now? How do you see things playing out? And if you feel that they're expecting things to be restored, too quickly or too easily, it's fine for you to convey that in a loving manner, just to say, I understand that, and that's my goal eventually too. But right now there's some healing that needs to take place. So if you'll be patient with me, I'll be patient with you. And when everybody understands going in, it makes the odds for success a lot greater. It's not to say there won't be trials and there won't be stresses and there won't be frustrations along the way. But if expectations are communicated, then it's a little easier to avoid some of those areas of confrontation that might exist, because everybody understands going in what's possible and what's not. So as addicts, we have to understand that our expectations don't govern the way the family lives. They have rights and they have feelings, and they have to deal with those things in a healthy manner as well. We have to understand that there may not be anything wrong with our expectations. They just may not happen as quickly as we want. And so we have to be patient with them, because Lord knows if they're still in relationship with us, they've been patient with us. So to the families, I would just say, if you expect and ask for them to communicate their expectations, and give them an opportunity to voice the things that they want and that they care about and that they need, and then you address those things one by one and say, yes, I understand you want these things and I want these things too, but we need to get there in a healthy manner. We have to work through this process, and certainly take advantage of counseling, and lean on friends who have walked the road of recovery. Have an accountability group. Have people who are not family members, who are not vested in your relationship, that you can talk to, that can act as mediators when things come up. But the goal of recovery is walking together. It's not walking alone, that I would walk recovery alone as an addict, or that I would drag my family with me, or they would be forced to walk down the path the way I see fit, but that we would walk together, because just as addiction is a family condition that affects the entire family, so recovery is a kind of an expedition that the family goes on together, and we will certainly be more successful to a greater degree in a longer period of time if we walk that road together rather than alone. So anyway, that was just something about expectations I wanted to cover. I hope it was helpful. We at El Roi Ministries continue to pray for those of you who are in recovery, and for the family members as well, and for those who still have loved ones in addiction, we're praying for you as well. So if we can ever be of any help, please don't hesitate to reach out. Our website is www.elroiprovides.org. That's ELROIPROVIDES.org. No spaces or dashes. You can also follow us at Facebook.com/elroiprovides, or Twitter @elroiprovides. So thank you, and God bless.